Exactly. So now it clicked once and then clicked again when it officially loaded. So now it's officially recording.
Okay. And then when I'm done, you want me to just copy and paste?
So actually, all you need to do is when you're finished, hit end. When you
Stop
said before.
broadcast?
Is there an end? Tell I forget what the wording is.
At the
And
bottom, it's red and it says stop broadcast.
exactly. So as soon as she leaves, and you say bye, just click stop broadcast, and it'll be done.
Okay. And
And
save to your thing.
exactly. As soon as you hit that red button, it'll save. So just you already click start. Um, uh, give her overview of what it's about and what you'll talk about and the topics. For you and other female teachers like you, James is sending me a message, curious about teaching abroad, teaching in Korea. All right. So for you and other female teachers like you, curious about teaching in Korea, I think that's a good number two. What do you think about that, Mayor? And
Um,
then three, intro. I'm Mayor. And Mayor, the reason why, like to introduce yourself, so it's our own. Do you know what I mean? So no
okay.
one can kind of take this, like no other recruiters could take this and say, oh, this is great. Like they can point in the direction of where, of what this is, and wherever they see it, it'll say Truth Teacher Services. Okay.
Okay.
And you don't even have to. You don't have to say your last name. Just say, hi, I'm Mayor from Truth Teacher Services. You can say hi Morgan. I'm Mer. Hi. First name basis is fine.
Okay.
From Truth Teachers.
So this whole thing's being recorded now, so I don't need to do the brief chat beforehand and then
Exactly.
say now we're going to start. I'll just start right away.
Yeah. So, well, first I would give her an overview. Well,
Yeah, follow this checklist or this step by step thing.
exactly. So give her the topics just so she has an idea of what we're going to talk about. So then when you start, say, "Hi Morgan, I'm Mer from Truth Teacher Services." So first, I just wanted to talk to you about um, the overall safety in Korea, and I kind of want to hear your thoughts. And then that's like when we will start, actually editing the talk. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that is how it's going to be. Do you think that works out well? Like you already started the hangout.
Yeah,
You'll
that's great.
wait for her to come in. You'll give her an overview so she's kind of relaxed. And then the third part, you start, hi Morgan, I'm Mary from True Teacher Services. So, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about with the living abroad is, X, and then then you start.
Okay.
Okay, and then all you need to do, once you finish, even then, like if she asks a couple of questions at the end and starts to kind of wrap up, again, we can edit everything, so don't worry. And then just all you have to do is hit end, and it automatically uploads, and you're done. You don't have to do
Okay.
anything else. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll be online. Just give me a call if you have any questions whatsoever. All right.
All right, sounds good.
I'll drop out of this, so it's not. Actually, Mary, it's kind of fun. You can kick me out of this Hangout. Click my since you started it. Say if like someone is really noisy in a Hangout or like the connection's bad, and they're like,
Eject.
"Oh, okay, I'm gonna leave." You can actually kick them out yourself. So I'll give you the privilege of doing that. Go click on
Okay.
my face in the top right corner in the bottom of my picture.
Yeah.
In the top right corner, there's a little arrow will appear.
Yeah.
It'll say like kick out or exit or something.
Okay, so I can do that now?
Yep.
All right. Okay, I'll talk to you in a bit.
All right. See you
Bye.
later. Bye.
So I can't watch TV.
No, you can't watch TV. Go in the living room.
Hi, Morgan.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. So this is my first time doing a hangout. I don't know if you've done them before.
No, I never have. My computer was like a little bit, I had to download a couple things. It was very confusing.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we're able to connect and have a little conversation. I guess Matt said you might have a few questions before you make a decision about teaching abroad.
Yes. I was kind of just like wondering about your overall experience
Okay.
teaching abroad.
I'll start it just by introducing myself a little bit, and then I'll explain some topics I can talk about, and then if you have any questions, you can ask me anything because they were going to post this conversation on their website because I
Yeah.
know other females probably have the same questions. I know I had the same questions.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. All right. So, my name's Meredith, and I work for Truth Teacher Services, and I'm just going to answer some questions and give an overall perspective from living in Korea as a female. So, a few things I can talk about are safety, transportation, hobbies, and making and keeping friends while you're abroad. So, for safety, is there any questions you had about safety in Asia?
Um, just like the general overall safety of the area.
Okay, so where I was teaching in Korea, it was just south of Seoul, so it was in a pretty large city, lots of people, lots of apartments, so always a lot of activity going on.
Mhm.
But what I found is that even though there's a lot going on, I always felt really safe. For example, when you walked into my apartment and many apartment buildings, there's mailboxes and they're just out in the open. So everybody's mail is just placed in these open mailboxes and it's just very trusting that no one will take anybody else's mail. So I remember right away my impression was, wow, this must be pretty safe if people just leave their mail out, personal documents and such.
Hmm.
So that was one of the first perspectives that I got. And then um, in general, traveling alone as a female, I know when I talk to my mom at night, I'd say, "Oh, I'm just, heading up to Seoul. It's 11 p.m." And she'd be worried, "Are you okay?" And I would tell her, "There's more people out at night sometimes than during the day."
Oh,
So that always made me feel really safe being on the subway or being on a bus. I never was in a quiet place. So that's from a perspective of living in a city or a satellite city. And, you know, in Canada and in other countries, I'm sure in the States too, sometimes there's people who are kind of out on the street and you just kind of know that they're up to no good.
yeah.
And I never felt like that ever in Korea. Like it never seemed like anybody was just looking to disrupt people or look for trouble. So I really liked that. And even if you're on the subway or on a bus, maybe there might be some weird people, but I never felt threatened by them, if
Wow.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that does.
Yeah, so that was never a concern of mine with safety. It was instantly I felt really safe. And if you go to Korea, I'm not sure about China, but especially in Korea, you'll see that right away. Is just everybody's doing their own thing, keeping busy, and I think that that adds to the safety is that everybody is so busy that they don't really have time to just sit around and bother people. So that was good. And then I know a lot of teachers are concerned with North Korea.
Oh, yeah.
And I was too when I first went over there in 2010. There was a bombing that took place of one of the islands, so there was a lot of tension, and some of my friends were actually leaving Korea because they were worried. But when you talk to Koreans and you get a real perspective, you kind of learn that yes, they're making threats and you could be worried, but that's something they've been dealing with for like over 60 years. So if they left every time there was a threat, there'd be no one left in Korea. So I felt that that was never an issue. Once I started talking to teachers and Koreans about it, I never felt threatened by that or worried. So I always felt safe.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how you're talking about all the subways and stuff, is it hard to get around and like how is the transportation?
The transportation is actually really easy. It's definitely overwhelming. If you Google the Seoul subway map, it's insane. There's so many lines and so many stops, but it's really well organized. There's colors for the lines, and then all of the stops are also written in English. So if you get a smartphone when you're over there, you can download an app, and it will give you all of the subway lines and all of the stops in English. And you can also click where you want to go from what stop to what stop, and it will give you the best route with the least transfers or the fastest. So that was really helpful. And they were always really crowded, the buses and the subways, but when you kind of look at what you're getting, they're very cheap. I think it's like less than $1 to travel anywhere on the subway,
Oh wow.
and really easy. You can buy these cards called T-Money, and it looks like a credit card, and you put money on them, and then you just swipe in and swipe out everywhere you go. So there's no lines. Everybody's just moving in and out. It's so quick and really reliable. Like the buses and the subways are coming constantly. So there wasn't a lot of waiting. And in the subway stations and at some bus stops, they have signs that say when the next train is coming. So I found that was really helpful.
Yeah, that's cool.
And
What
yeah,
if there were places that don't have like subways, buses? Like, do the taxis, did you have any issues with them?
yeah, no, there's actually an abundance of taxis in Korea. They're everywhere. I never had a hard time getting one. I lived in a satellite city of Seoul, so I really relied on buses and subways, but I traveled a lot to smaller towns, and there's buses, and what I found was there's buses in all the towns, or taxis, definitely a lot of taxis, and taxis are also extremely cheap. So a lot of foreigners will cab places as opposed to busing or taking the subway. I know some days if I had a long day at school and I didn't want to get on the bus, I'd take a taxi home, and it would cost less than $3, and it was about 10 minutes.
I wish they had that in the States.
I know. So now that I'm back, there's one of the things I miss the most actually is the transportation system, because I find moving back to Canada, I needed to get a car to be able to get around everywhere.
Yeah.
And my husband takes the bus. He's always complaining, it was so much better in Korea. So
Oh, he was there too.
yeah, if you can look past certain things, some people will find things to complain about for the transportation, but once you take a really good look at it, it's a pretty incredible system, and they've got a lot figured out that's working for them. So I missed that.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could bring that over here.
I know. There's a lot. I think in Vancouver they're going to look into getting the T-money thing because there's so much waiting for people paying to get on the bus.
Oh, that would be smart. Yeah.
So, and once you adopt a system like that, people just pick up on it so quickly. I think it wouldn't be an issue at all.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind.
Yeah. And then when we made trips to like more remote areas, I found my co-teachers or Korean friends or even foreigners who'd been in Korea longer than me. I would
Uh-huh.
go to them for help and they'd help me book it. So looking into buses and trains and ferries. And in my third year, I planned a whole bike trip in the south of Korea but not by myself, but with my co-teacher. And I remember thinking that was so cool to be able to do that and explore other parts of Korea. So if you find teachers and you say, I want to go on a trip, they'll be more than happy to help you plan that because I find all Koreans want to promote their country, so they'll encourage you to look into making trips.
Hmm, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, did you have any like issues communicating with like taxi drivers or just locals or anything like that? Was it
Really?
hard?
Yeah, definitely. And you will too if you go abroad. Anybody who goes abroad will find that. So my advice for that would be to if somebody's not understanding you, the best thing you can do is stay calm, try and stay clear, trying to explain what you want. Don't get angry, and use any resources you can. I know I got on my phone a dictionary, so sometimes if I was struggling, I would just type in keywords and show them. If I went to certain places frequently, I know, especially going from my school to my apartment, some taxi drivers, I don't want to say that they were doing it on purpose, but they seemed to not understand what I was saying when other taxi drivers would. So I had my co-teacher just write a note with my address, and it just said, "Please take me here." And if I would say it in Korean, I would always try. And if they were like, "I don't know what you're talking about," I would just pull out the note and be like, "Here you go." So that's to make life easier. And especially if you're coming home late, like at night sometimes, if I was in Seoul and I want to come home at night, I just pull out the paper with my address and save a hassle at that point.
Oh, that was a good idea.
Yeah, so things like that, that helps because you'll see people and you'll see foreigners who, in situations like that, just get really angry and loud and rude, and that doesn't help anything. So that would be my advice: is find ways around it and always stay calm. Don't get mad at them.
Did you pick up on the language also while you were there?
Unfortunately, it wasn't until my third year that I decided to learn Korean, how to read and write it, and that made my third year so much easier
Really?
because yeah, because Korean's very phonetic. So if you actually sit down and study it, I've heard people say this, and it is actually true. You can learn it in a day.
Oh,
You have
wow.
to be practicing it to be able to read fast, but I mean, I learned the alphabet and then I just practiced reading menus. My co-teachers loved helping me try to practice my pronunciation. Students love it. If you give them break time and you tell them you're learning Korean, for 5 minutes, I'd let them come up and pretend to be the teacher, and they'd make me read things.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
cute.
so that was another way to really connect with them. So I liked that, and that helped. And that helped especially with transportation, because a lot of those signboards I was talking about, they're in Korean. So if you can learn the subway stops by you or where the subway could be coming from, you can read it and you can know what stop it's at, because it usually tells you what stop the subway's at, so you'll know if it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 stops away.
That's how I might definitely try to do that.
Yeah, so that was really helpful.
Um, so like with teaching and everything, is there still time to like explore things that I'm used to at home? Like,
Yeah,
is there good shopping?
yeah, there's tons of time for that. And I had a lot of hobbies when I was over there, actually. And that's another thing I miss now moving back, is I felt like my time was really my own there. Because as a foreign English teacher, you really are there. My experience in the public school system was to support other teachers. And even if you're in a hagwon, you're just following, for the most part, I think you're following books. And
Uh,
you're adapting your own lessons, but I think once you get the hang of that, it's not like you're at school planning until 8 o'clock at night, and some of these Korean teachers are. So I know with my free time, I loved shopping. I love shopping anyway, so I'd go check out different areas, different stores. I love getting manicures and pedicures, so I found some places, and I'd go there with my girlfriends, get mani pedis, and I joined a gym, and that gave me some Korean friends that I still have, which was great because I was one of the only foreigners at the gym. So that was a great way to make friends. And my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, he was playing on a baseball team. So on weekends, we'd go and he'd play baseball, and I'd go socialize with the girlfriends and the wives. And that was a lot of fun. So just being active and getting out and doing things.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do they have like movie theaters and like stuff like that over there
Yeah,
also?
actually, in our apartment building, there was a movie theater. And one subway stop away, they had opened this ginormous shopping mall with this huge theater with these special theaters that they don't even have here. It was called Charlotte Class. I don't know. Sometimes they just put English words on things to make it seem cool. But it was like you paid a little more for your ticket, so maybe it was like $20, and you'd get these giant lazy boy chairs and this table in between you, and you could recline all the way back, and there would only be like 20 people in the theater.
Oh,
Like
wow.
VIP showing. So they did movies to like another level, and they had the 4D movies and everything. And I felt like they have a lot of action movies playing over there, but nonetheless, there's English movies. So, and it's not hard to go and find a theater, especially if you're up near Seoul.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I never missed that.
When you went to the movies and stuff like that, did you like, well, did you go with Korean friends or did you make friends at school? Like, was it hard to make friends?
Actually, so I was really fortunate because I worked in a public school. So right away I went to a teacher orientation, and there was a lot of foreigners. It was all foreigners in that. So I made a bunch of connections through there and found people who lived near me. And in my apartment building, there were a lot of foreigners. So I would just try to talk to them in the elevator, or if you're out in the street, sometimes if you see a group of people or something, you can. Some people think it's weird. You can just go up and say, "Hey, I'm new,"
Mhm.
and they'll probably embrace you and welcome you and say, "Hey, we're going to be here Friday night. You should come out." And that's another thing is if you go out to restaurants or local bars in the evenings, you're very likely to find foreigners out because most foreigners aren't sitting in their apartments. They get home from work and they want to go and do things. So, yep, definitely just going out, going to restaurants. Um, and then there's some travel groups online, and they're really popular on Facebook. And you can join them, and through them you can meet people. So I know if I had have gone there alone, the best piece of advice I would say is go on to like one group's called Wink, one group's called Adventure Korea, and one group's called Corridor, and they all offer tours, organized tours. So you just pay, and then it'll tell you. You choose which tour you want. So, for example, you could go on a bike trip, and they'll say, we're going to leave Friday night on a night bus from this subway station. So you could just show up, and it's going to be a majority of foreign people because it's organized for foreigners, and you'll make a ton of friends that way.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's definitely, there's a lot of tools there. So you can go to Korea and you can totally have a quiet life and you don't have to do any of that. Or if you really want to get out and meet people and have some adventure and try some new things, then there's a lot of ways to do it.
So, but that you found that there were like even outside of school, a lot of foreigners that like you could hang out with and become friends with.
I did. And I would say I have a better group of friends there from 3 years than I have back home now that I'm home because it's just like a certain bond too once you meet people there. You're going through all the same experiences together. If you get together in the evenings and you've had a bad day, you can kind of bounce it off each other, share your feelings. Everybody's kind of on the same page there. You're all
Mm.
going through this together. So I met some great people there. And just through all the ways I told you, I met some in my building, I met some at my orientation, I met some in the gym, I met some on my husband's baseball team. So just the more you do, I think the more people you're going to meet.
Huh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you. I'm trying to think if I have any more questions.
No problem. I'm happy to answer any questions, and hopefully I gave you some insight into what it's like to live over there. But that year, those 3 years were some of the best of my life. So I would say any of those things, like safety, transportation, hobbies, and friends, they all have so many pros going for them. So I wouldn't let any of those hold you back.
Are there any piece of advice you have, like if somebody's on the fence about whether to do it or not?
I would say go for it because, especially I know with teaching right now, when I graduated from university, there were just no teaching opportunities. So it was kind of sit at home and substitute teach or volunteer or go and have this great adventure. And for me, 1 year turned into three. And I pushed for a fourth year, but my husband said no. It was awesome. It was honestly the best 3 years. And even if it's not for everybody, I think that year can really teach you so much. Even if not everything's going great for you, I think it's just such a great learning experience, especially as a young teacher.
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you so
No
much.
problem, and send me an email or let me know if you ever want to chat again if you have any more questions, because I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Morgan.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.